So I'm going to take a stab at describing what we're seeing right now in terms of COVID and kind of look at the North Carolina numbers. What we've got here is your standard bell curve. And from what I've read, the flu season, COVID type stuff, or well, a flu bug, we hit herd threshold for immunity right around 25% of the population. So if we were seeing an outbreak or a growth, we would see this nice sharp spike right here. And when we get up there, about 25% of the population would be infected. There wouldn't be enough people out there. 1 in 4 people would have already had it. And so it would not spread as quickly, right? It would decrease the amount of spread so that not many people would be, that spike would kind of tear off. And then as more people at that higher level got it, it would taper off as we hit like a nice threshold where everything is. Now, what we have in this picture is what we've had happening in North Carolina, which is because we did social distancing and we did really nice early reactions to it, we cut the curve real early. Now, most people thought perhaps we'd cut the curve higher up, but right now, we've cut the curve to a point at which we're having about 270 cases a day, give or take. That's my 7-day estimate. Now, the thing that people have to realize is the number of people underneath the curve before that peak are the number of people that have to get it in order for us to reach herd immunity. And as you'll notice, if you took the area under the curve on the green line and compared it to the black line, we're going to have a lot more people get infected over a much longer period of time. And so this is going to really, really, really prolong things as they are right now. Probably what happened in New York is they hit that peak and they spiked really quickly because they didn't take sufficient measures. Now, here in North Carolina, the problem is we get more death when the number of people getting infected rises up to the number of ICU beds, right? So we have about 3,241 ICU beds. It's sort of a line, and when we cross it, we'll have more deaths because we don't have like sufficient medical staff and locations to take care of folks. Now, the population in North Carolina is a nice roundabout 10 million people. 25% of that is 2.5 million people. So that means like 2.5 million people have to get COVID before that herd immunity 25% flu number kind of gets there. So we have to have 2.5 million people infected before we start seeing some activity in terms of herd immunity. You probably noticed the 270 people per day right now average. That's gonna take a while. In terms of infected in New York, they're at 5% detected. Now, if we take that 2.5 million and we do a little simple arithmetic, then that 2.5 million divided by 270 means it will take 25 years for that number of people to get infected. Yikes. Push this math a little further. If we look at 2.5 million people infected with about a 5% hospitalization, we're going to have to hospitalize 125,000 people. Divvy that up by the 3,241 beds, and that's about 38 groups of that number of people. 14-day recovery, that means about 532 days of ICU time in order to meet that need, if the current numbers in hospitalization are accurate. The good news is it probably isn't that bad. There's a lot more infected people out there, but we really have to address the elephant in the room, which is the fact that at the current rate of infection, we've cut this thing off so early that the amount of time we have to stay in this place is sufficiently forever, unless we figure out how to get back out there. Now, I get the dangers of this thing. I'm not completely ignorant of it. If we loosen protocols and we hit that threshold for ICUs, bad things happen. People start dying. And I would not want to be the politician in that room that had to make that call. But at the current state of things, New York is going to get out of quarantine because their numbers are going down sharply. because they didn't put sufficient measures in early enough. And all of us states who did put sufficient measures in early enough are going to stay nice and plateaued right now indefinitely. Our numbers haven't changed for 3 weeks, and we've been in isolation at least that long, at least not significantly. So the people who screwed it up are going to go outdoors because their numbers are going down, and the people who took sufficient caution are going to stay indoors because the current measures are based upon whether or not your numbers are going down, which according to herd immunity and everything else, that's going to be a real good long time if we look at those numbers. Now, I'm happy to be wrong. In fact, I'm making this video because I would love someone to tell me where I'm wrong. So please do feel free in the comments and everything else. Don't give me like disparaging comments, but this is what I'm looking at right now, and I don't see how the numbers add up.